It's time for another fountain pen shootout. And I thought what I would do today is talk about these two pens. Now, the reason I wanted to do a shootout between the two is that they are related to each other. And this one has run out of ink, so I'm just filling it as we speak, because in B.R.E. Brown videos, what you see is what you get. It's full now. These are two pens made by Desiderata pens, and the reason I wanted to compare them is that they are very similar, but one is a slightly girthier version of the other. Now we're back in business. They have different inks in them. I know that's terrible for comparison, but that's just what I had. It's not so much about how they write, because these two have exactly the same nib, exactly the same feed. I just wanted to kind of show you the two features, but of course I will do a writing sample because I know that people really want to see that. So on top here we have the Desiderata pens Dumka, and then here at the bottom we have the Soubriquet. Now they look very similar, but if you actually hold them and look very close, you will see that the Dumka is a little bit girthier than the Soubriquet. Now they're very close, but there is a difference, especially in section, and instead of just talking about it, I will show you. Overall, very similar shape, different materials, which makes it a little bit harder to see the differences. Materials are typically limited runs, but here are some other Dumka, so you have other options for these particular pens. These two are inked, so I'm just going to show you these two. This Dumka, I'll just unscrew it. What it does have, and that's something that the Soubriquet does not have, is the rapid thread system. That is thread with a D and not rapid threat. It's not actually that ominous of a pen. Quarter turn is all it takes, then the cap is off and you can start writing. Now they don't really post. I'm just going to use them. I'm just going to put the pen in the cap like that, kind of post it so they won't roll off my desk, so that I don't actually wave them around, but this way you can actually see them. And as you can tell, or so I think you will be able to, the Dumka actually has a wider section than the Soubriquet. And that really is the big difference, because lengthwise, again, they're just going to roll off. Lengthwise, I'm just going to try and hold them up. There really isn't much of a difference. The difference lies in the diameter of the pens. So if you like a girthier pen, if you have larger hands, if that is what you really care about, then I would say the Dumka is a very good option. Both are, in my mind, very comfortable, but I'll hold them up both so you can see the difference in pens in my hand. The Dumka certainly has a girthier section, and that's something that I think might be worth zooming in on a little bit. Give me a second because I have to uncap them, get that out of the way. I'll hold the other one up again, but let me just zoom in a bit. You can definitely see the Dumka has a bigger section. It's just girthier, right? So that's really a big difference. So there we are with that. The Soubriquet, slimmer section. Now, it's not a secret. I like larger pens. I have larger hands. Very small, very narrow, very thin pens don't work well for me. I've had no issues with the Soubriquet whatsoever. The section is quite long, and on both of these pens, and I think that's really worth pointing out, on both of these pens, the threads are made really, really nicely. And they're honestly, you barely even feel them. I don't know how Pierre does that, but that's interesting skill, because there is no sharpness to them. And that makes them very pleasant to use. So that I would say is a big difference. Another big difference is that the Soubriquet, this Soubriquet has a pump filling system. So to use it, give me 1 second, you unscrew a blind cap, rather a large blind cap on the end, and then you have this sort of spring action system, very simple, put in the bottle of ink, push this and it will fill with ink. The Dumki, that is the plural of Dumka, they actually have a piston fill system. I can't activate that there because there's ink in it, but I'll show you on this particular model. It's just a piston filler. So you have a piston turning knob, put in a bottle of ink, engage that, engage it the other way, and it will draw up a lot of ink. So there is that. So if you care for one filling system or the other, that might also decide which of these two pens you would prefer. Again, I think that's really user preference. I think that the pump piston system is actually quite cool, and it's also, you can do it with one hand. It's very easy, it's very simple, and it seems to work really well. Now let's consider the two pens, and I'll try to talk a bit about my experience. Bear in mind, again, they have different inks in them, and I know that's not a good comparison, but these two pens have exactly the same nib. In both cases, it's a JoWo nib. Pierre ground them, so I mean there isn't really any major variation anyway. Both are Desiderata. I'm not going to write down Desiderata, although I probably should somewhere. So here we go. It's Desiderata pens from Chicago. Here we have the Soubriquet. Pleasant. It's a fine steel number 6 JoWo nib. The ink is Lamy Mango, which is not always great for reviews, but it's just such a great match for the pen that I felt I should kind of have it in there. Very pleasant writer. It's not the wettest of nibs. No, it's kind of, yeah, it says I don't want to play this game anymore. That's fine. Pleasant writer. And Pierre does a nice job grinding these nibs. He was taught by Richard Binder, so that's not exactly the worst person to learn from, is it? Right? He's been grinding nibs for a very, very long time. And then here we have the Dumka. Very pleasant writer as well. Different ink. This is just Waterman Serenity Blue. So different type of nib. Different type of ink. But again, exact same nib, same feed. Very pleasant to use as well. In writing, the experience, because I think that's more, again, it's the same nibs, same company, same nibs. The writing experience to me is certainly that the Dumka, you feel that additional girth a bit. So if you have larger hands, if bigger pens are your thing, the Dumka is certainly nice because it's a small difference in girth, but it does matter. You do really feel it. If you don't mind so much, if you have smaller hands, and I don't think I do, but I still find the Soubriquet to be very pleasant. So for me, that too, again, this seems to have given up the ghost for writing right now, but that's fine. This girth, still very pleasant. Still very pleasant to hold. Nice pen, nice size, no issues from that regard. So which one do you pick? Well, I'll tell you, I ended up claiming the Soubriquet for myself, and I'll be sending back the Dumka, which is a strange choice because I typically like bigger pens, but in this case I really feel the Soubriquet is, first of all, I like the material a little bit better. The blue is absolutely stunning, but I like swirly plastic. It's weird, but I do. So I really like that. I also like the filling system a little bit more. Nothing wrong with the piston filler. It's beautiful. It's designed. It's made in-house. But I really like the single hand use of the pump filler, and it works really well. So that, I think, is really pleasant. That's something I really enjoy. For me, that's the choice. That's what I pick. Even though it is actually a tiny bit smaller than the Dumka, for me it's the Soubriquet. That's the one I pick. But let me know which of these two you would pick. And finally, a very kind thank you to Pierre for lending me these two pens, because it allows me to make videos, which means that you have something to watch. So I hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye.